What is going on, baseball fans? Jeremy Letterquente here, back at it once again for the Baseball Banter Broadcast. And we are once again bringing you our off-season plan series. This time, as you can tell by the hat that I'm wearing, we're going to be discussing the Minnesota Twins. And to help me discuss the Twins, there is none better than Sherry, our Twins contributor here at the Baseball Banter Broadcast. Thanks for joining me, Sherry.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here.
What's going on, Sherry? Thanks for joining me here so we can go over your Minnesota Twins and try to build them into a winner.
Absolutely. Now's the time. So let's get going.
All right. So as we get started here, there are a couple of ground rules that had to be followed in order for this plan to work. And so as we go over these rules here, so the ground rules as it stands for creating the team this year is that the financial plans have to be realistic. The payroll for the Minnesota Twins in 2025 was about $130 million. And the commitments already on the team were about $81 million, right? So not a whole lot of room to play with there, but still enough to make some moves there. The rule number 2 is that all positions had to be filled out. So every single starting spot in the lineup had to be filled out, as well as the 5 starters, a closer, and you can fill out your relievers and your bench however you see fit, but they had to equal a total of 26 players. Any trades that were made had to be realistic in both the trade package as well as the financial component for both sides. And the fourth rule that we had to follow is that personnel changes are allowed, but again, must be realistic. And the fifth rule is that real opening day injuries had to be accounted for as we started the process to fill out and build out the team. So, Sherry, as the Twins expert here on the Baseball Banter Broadcast, let's begin.
Awesome. Let's go. Okay. So I don't know if anybody has seen, but we have actually made some trades and acquisitions. It hasn't been much, but that is okay. We got Jackson from the Orioles, and we gave up, unfortunately, I don't really know much about him, but we did give up a AAA guy. He's 32 years old. He's kind of been up and down. So for me, bringing in Jackson as a backup catcher, I think, is better than having Peralta, simply because I don't think Peralta's quite ready. Jackson has a little bit more time. He has a little bit more notoriety. Even if we have, Jeffers doing 60% of the games, that leaves him to do 30. So I think having 2 catchers is obviously going to be vital. I know not everybody uses 2 catchers all the time, but so I am starting out strong with Jeffers and Jackson. I am going to at first base, and this one was kind of a toss-up for me because I was nervous that we were going to get rid of Cody Clemens. It sounds like he's staying, so for us and for me, that's really awesome. He's still not going to eat a lot of salary, and he had an amazing season, so I'm putting him at first. Now, shortstop is a little bit interesting because what we have is we have Julian, we have Keishel, and we have Lee. So we have 3 guys really that can cover down in that area. So I am definitely going to keep those 3 on the roster. And Julian can probably learn a little bit at first. He has done it before. And I'm going to keep Keishel probably at short and keep Brooks on second. They interchange quite a bit, and they seem to have no problem doing that, which is, in my mind, really awesome. And then I'm going to keep Lewis on third. I think that infield has worked before, and it works a lot better. And then we have in the outfield just a menagerie of gentlemen. We have Byron Buxton. We have Trevor Larnach. We have Austin Martin, and oh my goodness, Matt Wallner. So I'm already up to, my probably 12 guys at this point. While I know they'll probably be interchanged, I know Larnick probably would be able to do DHing, and so would Wallner, in the instance that I have to rotate any guys in and out. And finally, pitching. As we saw last year, it was a little bit difficult for the Twins. We no longer have a lot on the back end. So far, Joe Ryan is staying. So we have the rotation of this is how I envision this going. It's going to be Pablo, Ryan, Ober, SWR, which is Simeon Wood Richardson for those who don't know. And then we have all these new guys, and I'm curious to see if Prelip can do anything. I'm curious to see if he ends up being a starter simply because that's where he was at. So right. If we have 5 in those rotations, that's definitely a good start. While we do need more than that, we have a couple of guys that I know will probably improve, hopefully, from last year. If you watch Cody Funderburk, he came in and he was a setup guy. He was a middle eater guy, and then he was a closer. So I think that we can use him in different capacities, but I think we're going to start using him specifically as a closer. I really do feel like that's a good probability, simply because we do not have anyone that has really shown up like he has since Duran left. And I know at the beginning of the season he was absolutely ridiculous, but then we have Mick Abel and Travis Williams, and while some of these guys are starters, they're good middle guys. So I'm going to keep Abel, I'm going to keep Adams, and how many am I up to now? I'm probably up to, I can have 13, I think is what I'm at. So yeah, I'm going to keep Festa, Matthews, Morris I'm not so sure on. Pearson Ole for sure. Orrs is another guy we just traded for. I don't know anything about him, so I'm keeping him off. But I'm going to do Prelip, Rhea, and Cole Sands. So I'm going to keep that 26 kind of really with what happened last year, because I think that these guys have synergy. They have the right movement, and we need to keep moving in that direction. So I think to bring in anything else, Orrs definitely, he can probably get better. Rojas, he is a new guy, not new, but they're moving up from AAA, and him and Rhea. So I don't want to make too many movements simply because this is what's working so far.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that you're kind of keeping with the squad that ended the year after the gutting at the trade deadline. So
yeah, emotionally, I think, and I know that sounds weird, but that's just the kind of person I like. There's a lot of synergy and emotion that goes into the game, and I think to disrupt anything else at this point, had we traded Pablo or Ryan, I think that would have been a nail in a coffin, and I think the front office knew that. So I don't see us going any further than this. And to be completely honest, I don't even know if bringing in anybody else would make sense to the pitching lineup, because we have some good back end guys, and Mackey's amazing. So I just don't think I'm going to touch the active roster at this point.
No, definitely understandable. Obviously, having kind of the feel and the connection for the team that you do, you feel that these guys are going to be able to take that next step and kind of bring the Twins back into a place where they could be a postseason contender.
Yeah, and I really do feel like this is the area to do it. Now, the only person I would drop is if we brought anybody in, and God love him, but probably Mickey Gasper. I think if we were to bring anybody in, he would be the one that would probably go. He would, he wasn't just productive enough, and if you want to go with the Wars situation, it just didn't produce enough.
No, for sure. Yeah. So what I find interesting with your squad and obviously, in doing this approach myself and examining the team, I kind of went a little bit of a different way, right? So I'm very curious to hear your takes on some of the moves that I've made to try to improve your Twins odds at a postseason run for this year.
Okay.
When I put this plan together, it was before the acquisition of Alex Jackson.
Okay.
So that, just to kind of preface it there, that move wasn't listed on my itinerary just because it hadn't been made yet, and that's not the direction that I went. But so I kind of run through what my lineup looks like, right?
Okay.
So Ryan Jeffers, obviously keeping him in as your catcher. Like you said, probably going to catch about 60%, 65% of the games for the Twins. No real reason that I see to, try to circumvent that. This is a guy who can absolutely be productive for you in that lineup. So you definitely want to have that, right? And I had Mickey Gasper as his backup, right? So he's listed as somebody that can catch. That's kind of the avenue I went, just to be able to make other moves in other places, right?
I do have to say, it wasn't Peralta, it was Pareda. That being said, you picking Gasper over Pareda is mind blowing, but keep going.
Like I said, it's more so about his versatility than him so much being a backup catcher. Obviously, he's more of the third string guy in most most situations, in most ways you would actually want to see that team play out. Having Alex Jackson there as the regular backup and having Gasper there as, emergency situation makes more sense. But just so that I could have, the leeway other places, I was like, all right, I'm just going to have him as the backup.
That's fair. That's fair.
Do some other things with the bullpen. So rather than wasting it on a guy that was going to be your backup catcher, let's keep the guy that's already there. It can, be tossed back there.
Okay.
In terms of the infield, I'm going to start at third, right? So Royce Lewis, obviously, everyday third baseman.
Yep.
You got to pray that he's able to stay healthy for a full year. I'm extremely hopeful and curious to see what a full healthy season from Royce Lewis could be. This was a top pick, top 3 pick, number 2, I think, overall when he got drafted by the Twins. So I think that a healthy season out of Royce Lewis is absolutely paramount for the Twins' success. And I think that if you can get a healthy season out of him, the Twins could surprise some people on the strength of what he's capable of doing.
100%. Yep.
So shortstop, Brooks Lee, kind of leaving that where it is. Luke Keeschel is my second baseman in this, play out. Edouard Julien is going to be my backup infielder. Like you said, kind of be able to move him around. So he's taking over that role for me, right? At first base, I'm bringing a guy in, and I'm bringing in Rhys Hoskins. So I'm bringing in Rhys Hoskins on a 1-year, $15 million deal, right? So guy played with the Brewers, kind of has that ability to be a clubhouse guy. He was very good at being a clubhouse guy when he was with Philadelphia. So I don't think clubhouse chemistry was one of the things that you were focusing on, kind of in not disrupting that. I think you could bring a guy like Rhys in and really not disrupt that chemistry whatsoever. I think that he can add to it. It's also a guy who can be a veteran leader in that clubhouse, someone who's been down the grind of the dog days of summer leading into a postseason run. And I think that he could kind of help facilitate that mindset change with some of these younger guys in Minnesota, right? So bringing him in, I think, could kind of round out, help keeping that, first base situation open. That then puts Cody Clemens as kind of a roving player for me, to be able to back up at first base, kind of make a little platoon situation, where you can have him kind of mixing and matching in different places, right? So he's also going to be my utility guy. Then when it comes to my outfield, I have Matt Wallner in left, Byron Buxton obviously in center field. Trevor Larnach's going to be my DH, right? And you can kind of mix and match where he fits in there. And the backup outfielders is going to be Austin Martin, right? And it's going to be kind of a platoon situation because I'm going to bring another guy in, Mike Yastrzemski, to be able to platoon with Austin Martin in left field, right? So I'm bringing Yastrzemski in on a 1-year, $8.5 million deal. So being able to have him kind of platoon on the corners and be able to be, again, another clubhouse veteran that can help this team kind of get through those dog days of summer and be able to kind of help mold the younger guys that are coming up and being able to play the outfield. Again, Cody Clemens is kind of my, roving player, being able to play the infield, play the outfield, and then having Martin there to kind of platoon as the righty part of the lefty-righty combo with Yastrzemski. Then when it comes to the pitching staff, I really didn't do much with the starting rotation, right? You guys already have the makings of a very good starting rotation, so I don't see the point of kind of disrupting that. Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez, Simeon Woods Richardson, Bailey Ober. Now, for me, the fifth guy, and it may be because of being around the Philadelphia Phillies area and hearing so much about Mick Abel, being able to see what he can do on a full-time role and kind of not having the pressure of the Northeast, I think could be a very good spot for him. I also think pitching at Target Field is going to be a much easier time for him than pitching in Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. So being able to have kind of that bigger field to kind of play with and the team behind him, I think that Mick Abel could have a good run as your number 5 starter. So for me, that's the 5-man rotation that I went with. As far as in the bullpen, Cole Sands, Justin Tapia, Cody Funderburk. I have Zebby Matthews in as kind of that long man, potentially blowout situation kind of guy, but also that guy that can swing into the rotation if something happens. So you kind of keep him stretched out, working multiple innings when he does come in. O is in there as well. Then I made 3 moves with the bullpen. Right. So, and it's partially because I like having multiple lefty arms in the bullpen, right? So one of the guys that I'd be bringing in was Caleb Ferguson. He pitched last year with the Pirates, had a pretty decent year. Again, to me, pitching in Target Field is something that can benefit his skill set. I also think that what can be done with your pitching coach in him could absolutely unlock more, right? Mm-hmm. And then 2 other guys that I'm bringing in to the bullpen is Brad Keller, who had a really good year with the Cubs last year, and Luke Weaver, right? So Luke Weaver's coming off of a little bit of a down season with the Yankees. Prior to that was absolutely phenomenal for us. So I think that, kind of being able to rebound with the less pressure situation could absolutely be a paramount, rebound type of season for him. And kind of looking at the pattern at some of these higher end relievers like Luke Weaver has been for the Yankees the last few years, they kind of go through the ebbs and flows of every other type year, right? So not having the greatest year last year could mean that he could bounce back and rebound in a big way this upcoming season, right? Each one of those 3 relievers, I'd bring in on a $3.5 million deal. For Ferguson and Keller, I would do it on a 2-year contract for Ferguson and a 3-year deal for Keller. Luke Weaver on a 1-year, just kind of let him prove it and bounce back, potentially going into the free agent market next year after a better season. With all of my additions, it adds on about $34 million to the payroll. Now, with the $81 million that's committed already to the roster, it brings the payroll up to $115 million. So still $15 million down from where the budget was last year. So that's kind of the moves that I made as far as, changes to the Twins to try to get them back to being into the postseason. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the moves that I made for your Minnesota Twins.
Man. So the problem I have is I don't really have a problem with a lot of this. I love Hoskins, I love Yastrzemski, and Luke Weaver, actually. I really do like the kid, and my heart broke for him last year. Now, my initial thought, oh my god. Sorry. My initial thought out of this is they just DFA'd 46 pitchers.
Yeah.
So I definitely want veterans in there. But my concern is why are we spending money on our bullpen when we already have proven arms in there that work well with Mackey, that can do the things like you said, make Abel. Like, I wasn't even thinking of Abel until I mentioned him when I looked at the roster. And we have Prelip, we have Ol, we have Rojas, we have these guys that I know can make those things happen. And I'm not saying that, you know, 3.5 million is a lot for 3 players. But my thing is here's where I've always seen the issue with the Twins. We bring in these guys for 1 year and then they fall off and move on. And then our guys that are there every day putting in the work and they are not getting enough reps because we are bringing these guys in. How are we supposed to improve? So for me, like, I understand the concept. Now, Hoskins would make sense to me. Hoskins is probably the only one that makes sense to me, and probably Weaver. Because I know that Pete Mackey is a god and he can change anything. And Reese I can see at first base, but in a recent press conference, Falvey did say that he wants Julian to get more reps at first. Now, the caveat to that is if Julian doesn't catch on and we do have Clem and something happens to him, then what? So I understand where your depth is coming from. And I think that's why I would agree to Hoskins. But how good is Julian going to be this year? You know, and if he's having a good year, I don't want to see him get sent down to make a roster spot. It's just, you know, and maybe that's a me thing as a Twins fan. But logistically and logically, Julian is patient at the plate. He knows how to draw a walk. He was probably one of the best players to draw a walk, not in 2025, but 2024.
Yeah.
Yes, he had an off year last year. But his defense isn't the best at second. It's better at first. So while I agree with Hoskins, I'm hesitant to that simply because I do want to see where he goes, and we have until July 31st, you know, so I'm not saying that that's acceptable. And then I'd agree to Luke Weaver, simply because I do like him. I really do. I think that he is solid. We're familiar with him. He's familiar with the teams that we're already playing. He already knows the guys that we're playing. So for me, that one makes sense. Bringing out the guys from the NL doesn't make any sense to me. But again, it does. Like, I get what the concept is, but I think Weaver would be my second choice. And again, I want to keep some payroll. I don't want to be like, oh, we have $15 million, right? Like, I'm learning this as an adult. I have $50, and if I spend 25 of it, but then I find something that's 30, know, I should have waited. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like this team is where it is, but also Reese and Weaver would make sense. I wouldn't be mad about those, but I'd be concerned about, at least in the pitching staff, who we're removing to bring Weaver in.
Right.
But a lot of the guys that we have on the 40-man and on the 26 were Rule 5 guys. So, I mean, it's not like we'd get rid of them. They have options. They're all AAA and AA guys. So, but devil's advocate is we know these guys. They know us. But, yeah. So that's kind of how I feel about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, obviously, again, being in the nitty gritty of it with the fan, kind of growing, seeing these guys grow up in front of you, like, it feels different to have to make those cuts. And coming in from the outside, looking in, you know, you start to see different moves that could potentially fit. And you're like, all right, this makes more sense than what I'm seeing from this. So, you know, it just becomes an interesting tactic. And that's why I love this exercise, because it really forces you to have to evaluate in a real way, you know. And I always say, you know, the job of a GM in any sport is hard, but I think in baseball it's the hardest, because you don't know what you're getting, right? You got number 1 draft picks in the NFL, in the NBA, they turn out to be 99% of the time what you expect them to be. And
Exactly
you
what
can
they
have
are.
a
Right.
number one pick in baseball that will never show up on the field. So it's just, something that I always find very fascinating. And that's why I love this exercise, because again, you have to put yourself in the mind of a GM, right? If you're
Right.
coming in to manage this team, you have to work with this budget. You have to work within the confines of these rules to make this work. It's not like playing MLB The Show where you can turn off the budget. So this is one of those things where you have to, make some decisions, make some cuts, and see where you can improve. But
Yeah.
without a doubt, a fun exercise. So I want to thank you, Sherry, for joining me on this one. Guys, let me know down in the comments your thoughts and feelings on our plans. What would be the moves that you would make to make the Minnesota Twins a playoff team once again in 2026? I'd love to hear those thoughts down in the comments. As always, if you're checking us out here on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and the bell for post notifications, as it does truly help us continue to build this baseball community. And as always, if you are checking us out and you're not seeing enough coverage from your team here on the Baseball Banter broadcast, reach out. There may be a place for you on the team. For Sherry, our Minnesota Twins contributor, and myself, we'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.
Bye, guys.